Welcome to the Security Shift Podcast. My name is Daniel Schneider.
And I'm Bill Schultz.
Today's episode, the signals were there, so why didn't anyone act?
Question. Do most incidents really have warning signs?
This is an FBI thing, so yes, I think 70% of all incidents do have warning signs. Specifically, workplace violence and suicide and the school attacks, those do carry those warning signals, warning signs. To be honest, we just don't pay attention to none of these things because we were trained not to, for various reasons. But we got to understand that signs are always there. The question is, are we paying attention and are we aware of what it is? So everybody's familiar with the if you see something, say something, which is a great program. I love it. It's great. I grew up in Israel back in the 70s and 80s, and we had commercials about being aware. We were taught what suspicious looks like, and it does not happen here in the U.S. They have a nice little slogan, but you can ask anybody what suspicious activity is, and they'll give you 600 different responses. So really, I think that's where the gap is. We're conditioned to think that law enforcement is the be-all, say-all savior, and I don't need to pay attention to those days at every given point. If we're not, number one, trained to see them, or number two, are safe to talk about them, which is another area, then those signs will not be viewed, collected, and connected.
Why do people notice things but don't say anything?
Snitches get stitches, because my boss will think that I'm a problem child, a troublemaker, somebody who pays attention to other people but not themselves. I don't have the trust that when I bring something that is incomplete, I'm going to be trusted with the ability to say, hey, you know what? I don't have everything. Here's what I have. And my manager, whoever's up there, is going to say, you know what else did you see? Usually they're going to push back and say, do you have anything concrete? Do you have more proof? Do you have something? Because you got to understand security right now, and even HR, legal requires them to have the clarity and the certainty before they act. So a threshold must be crossed before anything is going to start, working. A threshold is what systems look for. A threshold could be a policy violation, a threat, could be anything. They're not looking at anything that is not there. They're not looking at John coming out with the same clothes that he had in the last 3 days. Unshined shoes. They're not trained to look for that. We might notice that, but I'm better off not saying anything because I'm not safe saying something, because if I do and it's not complete, how will I be judged? So it's more of a learned behavior.
Yeah, I think, just to add briefly to that, just a social fear of just not really being used to even acting upon those thought processes, and they're just frozen or paralyzed. They're just not something in their DNA they're used to really doing.
Yeah, I mean, we were taught not to pay, not to stick our noses in other people's business. So how do you want to change that just because, there's got to be a culture change for that to take effect?
So what happens to signals inside most organizations?
I would say that most of these signals get reported. It just stuck in the silo. So silo could be HR, could be security, could be your manager, could be a hotline that you called, and because it was so ambiguous and lack of information or data, it just landed at somebody's desk, and since they couldn't go any further, they just decided not even to call you back. The other thing is, people, again, they're trained. So one thing we talked about is the training of hey, I'm not going to be able to get the response that I want, and I'll be considered something. The other thing is, there's no going back to the person reporting with a loop back and saying, hey, here's what happened, and here's what actions we took based on what you said, which means I think you never took my complaint seriously to begin with, which means I'm never going to say anything again because you don't take me seriously.
Yeah, and I'd like to even say, not necessarily ineptitude, but just a lack of a playbook to deal with it at the top and then inside the organization. They might have a outdated planning, but it's just incomplete. It's antiquated, and they're not equipped to deal with today's social environments and culture.
Well, at the time, that I wrote this book, the Space Before Crisis, also available on Amazon. But I wrote it because I've noticed myself being all situational aware all the time, and looking at the world in my own lens. And I looked at how people are looking at security, and I couldn't understand why security is not working, because we have the training, we have better, trained forces than most countries. What I did find out was we put everything on law enforcement as that's the solution for everything, and no one's thinking about their own environment. So if there's something, I'm going to call the cops. Well, in today's environments, Phoenix Police Department is worth, or actually short 700, 600, 700 guards or 700 officers, which means response time is not there. The response time is going to be slower. Unless somebody's dead or injured, they're not going to show up. So those things have changed. We no longer can count on law enforcement to do everything for us. And as such, with the conditions that we have, a new generation, we have more sensitivity, we got more awareness to trauma, to all these other things. I think we need to change how we do things, and prevention is where it's at.
Absolutely.
Why don't systems connect information effectively?
They're not designed to do that. Most systems are, do not communicate with the other systems. Some by design, some by the fact that sharing information is fragmented for various reasons. Sometimes it's laws that require you to keep information in a silo. Sometimes it's fear of breaking a law. Sometimes it's fear about breaking a policy. So the systems themselves, there are systems that can do that. I'm going to call one 100%. So Awarity is a system that will take care of all the silos. We'll break them down because it does not do the same processes as every other system out there. Awarity will put everything in one funnel, and then all the departments that are connected to that funnel will get an alert. At that point, you have solved your problem. You no longer have FERPA or HIPAA in your back door knocking and trying to put you in violation, because that system is built and designed to make sure that you have what you need when you need it, and it's designed to connect the dots with the right, I would say, resources.
And I'd say with the real-time crime center space, and there's public safety is definitely seeking those private relationships to try and improve that. To your point about the Awarity, which I'm familiar with as well, and other programs, the public safety sector is definitely realizing there's that gap there. They need more info from the private sector cooperation.
Absolutely.
So I think those walls are starting to happen, but there's a ways to go.
If let's say we have what we call threat assessment teams in most organizations today, which is a great accomplishment. We need more of those. The problem is we need to be a multi-discipline team. You can't be run by law enforcement. Law enforcement is, again, limited where they can act and why they can act. They need to have probable cause. They need to have certain things. A threshold of breaking the law must exist for them to react. So if you do not have a multidisciplinary team, you will fail at putting the signs together and putting the picture together. So you need something that is a little bigger, a little better, and a little more fitted with resources outside of your own little world. You need to go to the community. You need to go to pastors, to rabbis, to community centers, to all these other places, and allow them to provide you with information so you can create the full picture.
Is this a coordination problem or a structural failure?
It's a structural failure. We're not ready to delve into something we cannot measure. We're not ready to give up on the shiny objects and technology. We're not ready to let go of egos. Some of these tips that are being shared or information that has been shared is stuck in a silo because there's no probable cause yet, so law enforcement can't do anything. Some of it's because I don't want to share this information because I might break law. Well, the other one is like I don't want to talk about it because I don't think this is a real a threat, or I don't think it's something that I can share with this person. So it's a structural thing. We don't talk about this. We don't have a way to measure this, so nobody's paying attention to that gap. The book that I wrote, The Space Before Crisis, is answering, I would say, 90% of what we need to start thinking of. And the second book will come soon, so just be on the lookout.
Why do silos still exist in high-risk environments?
Ego is probably one important thing to talk about. The other one is the system designed to keep information and not share information. We call the information system model to be broken. We think that it's broken right now. It's not working, and that's why we have all these cases that we look back on. We start talking to witnesses and interview witnesses, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I noticed this, and I didn't feel comfortable with that, and I saw him go to the gun store. I saw him go to this range and practice, or my mom noticed him that he was doing this, and I saw his journal." And again, but if you have all these signals in different silos and they don't communicate for any reason, you're going to miss putting the dots together, and you're going to miss the big picture.
Yeah, I think on the potential collaboration standpoint, it's missing just because of that. Back to that ego side of it, they just want to be either take all the credit, or they just feel like they know everything and other people don't. They're just not making that attempt. And I know you're not saying don't try.
Oh,
we got to
absolutely.
try more. We got to do more. But until we get out of that ego side of it, that's not going to happen.